It's so great to see everyone here. I'm really pleased to be able to read it down a series, and it just makes me very happy. I'm going to be reading from this new book called Apollo. And there are two poems. One is about art myth, and the other is more of a classical myth. And I'm going to start off with the moment Duchamp broke with painting. And it starts off with an epigraph from the dialogues with Marcel Duchamp by Pierre Carbin from 1987. In the 1920s, Duchamp stopped painting. Instead, he set out to explore the retinal boundaries which had been established within Impressionism into a field where language, thought, vision act upon one another. There it changes form through a complex interplay of new mental and physical materials, heralding many of the technical, mental, and visual details found in recent art. 1. A new thought for that object. The empty need of fame, set in an imagined scene, set at night with the queen in the state of undress. Over a chair lay the crimson velvet robe worn at her coronation. It is the human face staring outwards. The mind behind that face is changing. On canvas she is so lovely, so unlike herself. The great mystery of being is trying to capture real life. Sound allows for silence, stillness. Life's movements predict passing. In one moment, one still second, caught in oil, representing the time its subject stood for hours, days at attention. 2. Propel. In 1912, Marcel Duchamp, Fernand Léger, and Constantine Brancusi, visiting the Salon de la Locomotion Aérienne, saw a propeller in motion. According to Marcel Duchamp, Brancusi exclaimed, "Now that is what I call sculpture. From now on, sculpture must be nothing less than that." Fernand Léger's version of that day differed. Before the Great War, I went to see the air show with Marcel Duchamp and Brancusi. Marcel was a dry fellow who had something elusive about him. He was strolling amid the motors and propellers, not saying a word. Then, all of a sudden, he turned to Brancusi. "It's all over for painting. Who could paint better than that propeller? Tell me, can you do that?" Flames. In 1913, at his Paris studio, Duchamp mounted a front bicycle fork with its wheel onto his stool. It had no purpose. He simply enjoyed watching gyration, just as I enjoy looking at the flames dancing in the fireplace. The flames spoke no word, but illuminated all the same. It was years later in New York, bicycle wheel was realized as ready-made. Astronautica. One does not simply choose to stop painting. Analogous to breaking one's leg, it just happens. The mind moves beyond being there, disobeying its confines to portray new ideas upon new substances, to produce a believable, kinetic reality, merging two styles under one umbrella, from the mundane ad astra. And this is going to be more classical mythology. It's called The Birth of Apollo. It's after Sacus Lundus by Marcus Hieronymus Vita from 1527 and Caesa by William Jones in 1763. Now I am ready to tell you of the birth of Apollo, how he fell in love with the charming dryad Caesa, and how the game of chess was invented for her. The only arbiter in chess is salient victory. Life's victory is surviving, avoiding death. This is how Leto found victory, living her life, in constant movement, ever hiding from Hera, the queen of the gods. Leto, a goddess in her own right, is the Lethe daughter of the Titans, Coeus and Phoebe. Her beauty was her prominence as jealousy was Hera's. She was kept hidden away on the island of Kos for fear that Hera would kill her, even if she ever had the chance. This threat was real. Leto was repulsed from all lands upon earth. And as these things happened, Leto conceived after her splendor inadvertently caught the eye of Zeus. Leto was devastated. How could this happen? She shrieked into the emptiness where she hid. Hera will certainly kill her and her unborn children. She's going to have twins, a son, the god, Apollo, and a daughter, the goddess, Artemis. Now, as never before, did Leto take action. She called out to her sister, Arista, the goddess of falling stars, for sanctuary. The year before Leto went into hiding, Arista had transformed into an elegant quail, a tiny spectacled bird, to avoid Zeus's advances. In her rage, sorrow, and fear, Arista gave Leto a final, tender hug and flew high up into the sky, transformed once again, changing her form into the star, and fell in a blaze of water. Her body fell into the Aegean Sea and smoothed into a tiny island. She became the Quail Island, or Ortygia. Since this island was not attached to the ocean floor, Leto took refuge in her sister's arms and give birth in the goodwill that she deserved. The vengeful Hera was in check. She could not do anything other than watch her fear come to life. Apollo, the god of music, playing his golden lyre, is born. Artemis, the goddess of the wildlands, mistress of animals, is born. And poor Leto, having played her part, withdraws to remain in the dim, shadowy corners of Olympus. Some children grow up and do the most extraordinary things. Others simply just grow. Apollo, the sun god, the silver archer of light, did the extraordinary. Being bound in truth and prophecy, he cannot speak a lie. And as the leader of the choir of muses, Apollon Muscae, he guides them while plucking his golden lyre as the patron of art, music, and poetry. Each morning at sunrise, it is Apollo we see driving the sun across the blue-black sky, yoked to his four-horse chariot. His tree is the laurel, the crow his bird, the dolphin his animal. He brought the world the arts of medicine. He also brought into the world black plagues. And as to him, we offer a heartfelt homage in tonight's performance. When Sylvia Plath wants to bring up the idea of nature into her poetry, she calls upon the dryad for help. Consider her poem on the difficulty of conjuring up a dryad. The title tells us everything. They are difficult. The dryads are tree nymphs specific to the oak tree. Their spirit protects the tree over their long, oaky lives. They scatter their acorns in the best places for squirrels to bury for winter meals, or perhaps take root and grow. They dance in their whirling branches to calm the trees when the winds become too fearsome and untamed. And it was this dance that Apollo happened to see conveying the sun over the storm-shattered morning. Apollo lost his heart to the beautiful dryad Caissa. In her swirling ballet, she was a gyre of fascination. Dryads are very shy creatures, with one exception, Artemis, Apollo's sister, they adore. She was a friend to all nymphs. She was wild, free, and unclean. In uncivilized splendor, she hid. Caissa could not hide from Apollo, although she tried innocently, incessantly. Each day he would make his advances, and each day she would run away in fear. Caissa found him repulsive. He embodied everything she hated, stood solidly against. He was a dandy with that golden loop, foppish with no beard on his chin, and smelled of laurel. He also had the worst habit of telling the truth outright when sometimes she sought a pleasant lie to a delicate question. She wanted to go to the field and play when he wanted to read. He took her to the sun. She wanted to go to the garden. She wanted silence when he wanted to perform a paean. So after a string of rejections, he conferred with Artemis. She sent him to seek the advice from Ephron, god of sport. Ephron knew what to do, create a game to win her heart. In one moment, or a minor eternity, Ephron called Apollo to his workshop. His job done, the game of kings, chess, had been invented. Ephron brought out a black and white checkered board containing 8 rows up, 8 files down, each row containing 8 squares totaling 64. From a leather case, Ephron placed 34 pieces on the board, describing each character's role. There is a malignant, latent energy boxed up in these armies, he told Apollo, but delights that rival even the creative arts are here to behold for any player of any ability. All that is required is a courageous mind. On these squares, these pieces will move or be captured in due course by your opponent. Controlling the game is the king. Not unlike your father, it is a very powerful piece. But when cornered and attacked, the game is lost. The other pieces work to prevent this attack while trying to capture the other side's king. The queen has the greatest ability to move around the board. Able to use any course, she is a piece with which to take notice of and fear. These are the bishops. They move on the oblique. These are the knights who move up 2 squares and over 1. They form a circle of sorts in their attack. On the ends are the rooks that move up and down or across and over the board. Standing in front are the pawns. They are the soul of the game. They move only 1 step forward and attack on the flanks. Though small, their fate lies at the center of the game, for they represent the societies for whom this game of squares is performed. This game personifies the arts of war while stimulating the basic need to fight or hide, capturing the subtle arts found in the wild. Apollo looked down at the board and, considering all the possibilities, was sad and said, "There is nothing but sorrow and grief to be found in this game." Apollo thanks Ephron. He decorates his head with the laurel he wore to honor his achievement. He went to find Caissa. She was dancing in an oak tree. Apollo sits under the tree without acknowledging her. There he sets up a chessboard. He explains the chess rules into the air. She is shy, secreted behind a branch, and watches the horrible god play. All night, Apollo played chess by himself, and Caissa watched from above, head tilted in wonder, lip quivering in anxious, nervous passion. Desire brought sweat to her palms as she watched and contemplated positions. Slowly, the game transmutes her image of Apollo, who now seems less repulsive. She crawls down from her tree as might an orange cat, confident in her fear of everything and nothing. Slowly, with care, she sits next to Apollo. He touches her finger, uses his hand to guide her finger over the board, to move, direct her pleasures. Together, they play the game over days and weeks, sitting under the oak tree, neither one eating or sleeping, consumed with their play. Or rather, to be more accurate, Caissa held a passion for chess. Apollo wanted another game. She blocked his advances once again, but this time not due to lack of love. No, she loved Apollo. He brought this game into her life. She felt so full, brave, decisive in ways she never felt before, control beyond the irrational world in which she constantly tread. Here was a world safe in its logic. Here she could fight as well as hide. With shrugged shoulders, Apollo left the shade of the oak tree. He left Caissa with her game, becoming the muse of chess, and Apollo became the very first chess widow in history. Thank you very much.